Hello and welcome back to the second episode of my developer commentary of Harbinger. Today we're going to be going through Sundance Resort. Off camera I did a few things, but not a huge amount. Smelted up some logs just to give me some more charcoal in case I need to make torches or whatever. Still got plenty of logs here. Made up some backup tools in case. Enchanted a couple of things, so in fact I might enchant a pickaxe as well. Enchanted a couple of things, so we've got enchanted armor now. So we've still got the projectile protection, and feather falling. I don't think there's any use for feather falling in this area really, but it's there, so we might as well use it. And other than that, I'm kind of ready to go. The arrows are in case we find a bow, which might be a hint. I don't tend to use a bow a huge amount in combat in this game anyway, so yeah, that's fine. Right, let's go. So coming down here, this is a chest of water breathing potions. So your kind of first impression of this area is probably that it is a water area, and it isn't really that. I basically didn't trust myself to make a good water area, and I think bad water areas are not fun. They're kind of much better now that swimming is a thing, that you can actually swim, but yeah, I think generally they're not that great. So I basically avoided putting any in. This is sort of a transitional area. If you don't want to fight anything, you do not have to. You do not have to break any spawners. Most of the mobs will get taken away by the bubble columns. You don't even have to worry about water really. Sorry, about drowning really, because of all those bubble columns. So yeah, you're kind of absolutely fine on that front. The bigger worry is the creepers, which will drop down on your head as soon as you get out. Which I did remember they were there, so now let's get up here before it spawns anymore. I keep trying to place torches with my offhand, but yeah, so yeah, this is kind of the extent of the mandatory water areas in the map. There are some optional ones, which I kind of used because I think they're fun to explore. I like the 3D motion that you have in a water area that you don't have in a lot of other areas. So for instance here, and this is a good way of farming leather if you need some. Yeah, I don't think bad water areas are very not fun, but I like the idea of a water area. I like the exploration aspect, and so I included some optional water dungeons that you can do if you want better loot, basically, better weapons, etc. But there are no mandatory water areas really in this map. So if you do wish to just skip them completely, you can do. And if you're not enjoying one, you can just leave. I think they're all pretty short and pretty concise, apart from the last one. The last one is ridiculous. It's far too big, but I think it looks cool. I guess I probably should just remove a lot of the spawners and let you kind of swim around. But yeah, so we came through that water area and down into this railway tunnel. So and we see that it caved into this pit. There's a path down there, and there's something over there possibly. Yeah, so these railway tunnels are something I used quite extensively. In a lore sense, they're supposed to be like the way that the civilizations travelled around once they moved underground. I want to head over there. Really, I could just jump off. It is water down at the bottom, but I'm going to try and play it a bit more safe. Right. In case there are guardians or something down in the water. There aren't, but if I was, I suppose if I was a new player, I wouldn't necessarily know that. So let's. I think there's a spawner down here somewhere. The aesthetics of this area, I think, not so much this bit. This bit's fairly standard, although I don't dislike it by any stretch. I think it's quite nice. Yeah, the aesthetics of this area are probably its strongest part once we get into the main bit of the dungeon. Some of the gameplay is fine, but I think the actual structure of the dungeon is a bit flat. That's not the sort of thing I'm going to change if I update the map, because I don't want to completely remake the map. I think if I'm going to do that, I will make a new map. But yeah. But I would like to kind of update some of the mobs and some of the loot and all those sorts of things, and some aesthetics in some areas. Right, so let's head down here. I think I might just have to jump. Yeah, let's just go for it. So we could head down there. That's one of the... Well, let's go. Let's just go, I suppose. So this is one of the optional water dungeons, if you want to call it a dungeon. Mostly drowns without... I don't use any drowns with tridents. Again, just didn't really trust myself to balance them. Let's get some air here. But there are some guardians in the final room here. So we get to this little kind of underwater area, and we do have a space to get some air at the top if you need it. And there is the guardians are spawning. Let's grab all of this. And then let's go. Did I use that water breathing potion? Apparently I did, but it's run out, I guess. Again, you don't really... There are water breathing potions if you would like them, but you don't actually need them because of all these bull columns. So let's just head back the way we came. Again, there's quite a lot more to this area that I haven't explored, but I would like there to be a point to playing the map, and to playing the map even if you've watched this, and I think there's some things you still get out of it, and one of those is the exploration. I think there's quite a lot of effort into having stuff outside of the kind of mandatory path. There's obviously it's not particularly, it's a weird thing with stuff like that because it's one of those things where there's a spare shield there. It's one of those things where like that's the sort of effort that takes your map, makes it kind of more appealing for people to play. Yeah, so we've got Sundance City and Sundance Caverns. Right, let's go this way. Kill this guy before we carry on any further. And let's look at the sword we got. So we got a sharpness 1, knockback 1, and breaking 1 sword. And we got a bow as well. So let's... Which is just power 1, punch 1, and breaking 1. So we do actually now have a bow. I'm going to put food there like that. And give myself swiftness. Yeah, the adding areas to explore and stuff I think makes the map feel like it's more full, and it also makes it feel like the person who's made the map cares about what they're doing and not just doing the bare minimum, because obviously that's the sort of stuff you can get away with not doing. What I would say about that though is obviously all the time you do spend on side dungeons, bonus areas, anything away from the main path can be wasted effort. You'll notice the intersection is very, very plain, and so are the first 3 intersections pretty much. And the reason for that is just that intersections don't add to the gameplay, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time on them. And they can be a fun sort of area to make because they're not gameplay driven. You get to make an area that's purely designed for looks, but ultimately the reason people play a map isn't for the intersections. And let's just torch and retreat a bit. So yeah, I went for, at least for the first 3 intersections, kind of focusing on just like that they did their job and not spending too much time on them. Sorry, not very good at this talking and fighting thing. There we go. Yeah, so it's always a balance between kind of wanting to fill out your areas and make them... I might just let this guy explode. Fill out your areas versus have them... versus spending more time on the area itself. The kind of main section of the area. And I think this is this dungeon, this kind of orange dungeon. So we've come through this intersecting train tunnel, and we've come out this way, and we've reached a train station. So we're now exploring, and we're seeing some stuff spawning upstairs. There's also a chest there, which has some torches in, some coal, and some beef. So we'll just grab that. Right. I keep losing my chain of thought. I have to say I'm not very practiced at this, so please excuse that. I will start a thought and then forget what it is. Let's just let these guys explode. And that lets us into that back room as well. See, why is there so much junk in this chest? Who knows? The kelp I'm not going to take. Let's keep going. These invisible creepers are something I mostly removed, but there are a couple of them still around, and they can be very bad. Yeah, so those are short fuse creepers. Where are they spawning from? Oh, there. There we go. Right. Okay. Yeah, so we came along here to this train station. Short fuse and silent, but I think they have a reduced blast radius. And possibly lower health. I'm not sure how much damage a power 1 bow does. Right. So if you go down there, that does lead back to the station. So if you explode, you do drop into a little hole as well, so it can be a bit dangerous. Right. Let's clear our path here, just so that when we go up here, we have an escape route. So you can probably see immediately what I was saying about the aesthetics of this area versus it being a very flat area. The complete lack of verticality, I think, is the biggest issue with the area. The other big issue being that because it's very lacking in kind of verticality, let's stop talking for a second and instead just do this. Yeah, so I think this area looks really, really good. It's quite unique, having this, like this is a pond and that was a park. We've got the houses, and the kind of lore reason for this is after the civilization was driven underground, they created holiday resorts that they could pretend that they still lived above the ground. So this was one of those. So we've got the fake sky, which you can just about see if I might use night vision in here once we've cleared the area. And you've got these kind of houses as if it's a beachside neighbourhood from kind of before. Right, let's get rid of these whilst we can. Check we're not being taken on by anything from behind. The drowned spawn is on an endermite, and I believe endermites can spawn under any light conditions, so you actually have to destroy the drowned spawner in order to stop it spawning things. But I do not know where it is, so... Right, we should got a decent amount of leather, and we did get some lit up. But let's go a bit further forward. And we are running a bit low on food. I could cook up that beef if we need to. There's something down there for us to see, and there's also some houses over here. I'm mostly just going to leave these houses. They do have some good loot in. I'm going to go and use one of the furnaces. They do have some good loot in, so they are worth exploring, and there may or may not be an emerald in one of them. But yeah, initially these were all completely unblown up, and part of the beta was just putting a pile of TNT on the floor here and just exploding it to add a bit of variety to the area, because you can see there's two different houses that I've copied and pasted across and changed the colours a bit. The loot's different in every house, and they're not completely copy and pasted, but and it kind of makes sense from, like, if you look around a suburban American like neighborhood like this, a lot of the houses do look the same, which is kind of why I went for that, because I could have just built 2 more houses and then it would have added a lot of variety, but I think aesthetically this makes sense. Gameplay wise it's a bit boring, and also because that's why it's so flat. Again, like, I could have put this on multiple layers and it would have made the gameplay more fun, but because I was kind of modelling it on a beachside area of a beachside town or something, I decided to keep it this flat style because that's just how I initially imagined it, and it looks good. I think it achieves what I was going for, but this is one of the things where kind of a first-time map maker, I didn't think about how important vertical gameplay is, and having everything be flat just allows you to do this basically all the time. I am going to top up my torches and basically do a torch run along the beach here. There are a lot of spawners around here, and that's the other thing, because of how open it is, it makes it a lot harder to balance the mobs around, because if you don't put many spawners in, then it's very easy to just run in between the gaps in the spawners. But if you put a lot in, then mobs spawn and just kind of bunch up a lot, and that's not particularly fun. Like, it's not fun if you suddenly have 100 different mobs chasing you and you run out of food. 100 different mobs chasing you and it starts lagging your game or something like that isn't a particularly fun experience either. And I think that's something this area kind of completely fails at. But what I think it does achieve is it's not very hard, which is what I was going for. This is a good, I think, relatively easy early area. Let's put down a couple more torches. Yeah, it's a good early area, and it looks great. So, on balance, I'm quite happy with this area. I definitely want to revisit the aesthetic, even if I would do it. I would design the area very differently now. And I think the sun-dried zombies dropping leather is quite a good idea, because I was balancing around the player having leather armor at this stage. Giving them a renewable infinite source of leather is sensible, and also just makes the game make more sense from a multiplayer balancing perspective. Like, it's much easier to have it scale up into a multiplayer map if there's stuff like farmable leather, because leather's the sort of resource that, if it's non-renewable and you don't want to give cows because you don't want renewable beef at this stage, like, beef is a really powerful food source, so you maybe don't want to give that out at this stage. By having a mob drop the leather, that's just a good solution. So yeah, that was a good decision. I like the roads as well. I just like the kind of cartoony style of this area. culminating in that baby dragon that you might have seen in the intro. So this, I didn't build this. I found it whilst I was one of the things I was doing as I was building this map was exploring loads of different map making tools. So the final area I built with World Painter, which I think a lot of CTM people don't use, some do. I don't really like it, but I would like to get good with it. It's good for building a 3000 by 3000 map. It's not so good for building individual areas for a CTM. It's basically what I learned about World Painter. But one of the tools that I found and did not learn about was, or did not really learn enough about, was a tool called Tinkercad, which is basically you build stuff in a computer-aided design editor. So that's basically you kind of create computer models for stuff that you would use for a 3D printer, and what this allowed you to do is use those models and convert them into Minecraft builds and give you Minecraft schematics. So it was quite a cool idea. It's not something I really went very far with, but whilst I was trying to get it to work, they have a gallery, and here we have some skeletons with axes because of course we do. They have a gallery there where people can share their builds, and this was one of the things that people posted on there. So the only thing I got out of the many hours I spent trying to understand Tinkercad was... that was very close. So yeah, many hours of Tinkercad led to this dragon. And also, I could have built something similar. It's not particularly amazing. It's a big circle with some legs, some arms, and a top hat. The top hat's awesome. And I kind of could have just recreated that, or done something similar, or even just used it and not credited it, to be honest. Because, not saying you should do this, but it's not as if many people use the Tinkercad gallery and would recognise it. But I think it's important to credit when you haven't done everything yourself. So that's why there is a sign on the back of here that just says from the Tinkercad gallery by Robin. Presume that's not the same as the pop artist, but you never know. Let's get a torch down in here. Yeah, I had to rush in here because I was running out of oxygen, which is not ideal, but there we go. And we are hungry. I guess the nice thing about eating zombie flesh while fighting husks is that the hunger effect they give you doesn't matter because you're already hungry. Right, I am going to toss out some of this. Yeah, and one of the issues with block variation is that it makes everything look better, but also means you end up with a single brick slab in your inventory. Right, let's come up here. And this is another bit that I'm not particularly happy with on this area, is that actually as a kind of finale to the area, it's pretty boring. The as a quote-unquote challenge of the area is basically that it's quite long, and not that it scales up very well. And these silent creepers are always terrifying. I think they're significantly worse if they're silent. Right. I do not want him to explode. Down we go. So yeah, not too challenging. It's basically a couple of these rooms inside the belly, and then the fleecy boxes at the top of in his top hat. So yeah, I could have put something together. I kind of liked the idea of having this area be like Nipton from Fallout New Vegas, where you've got the dinosaur in the looking over the town. So that's sort of what I was going for with it as well. Yeah, so all in all, an area that has some potential but doesn't necessarily live up to it. But an aesthetic that I will definitely reuse in future projects, or possibly I might make a mini map or a jam map around this aesthetic at some point. The kind of Fallout-y, even that Fallout 3 kind of section where you there's a section in Fallout 3 where you basically imagine the perfect life that you could have had in a suburban town. I think someone murders someone else or something and it turns into a murder mystery or something. There's a bit more to it than just pretending you live in a suburb. But yeah, that's sort of the vibe I was going for with this area. And I think largely it worked, but not flawlessly. And this thing's actually bigger than it looks from the outside, and it always thunders when I come in here. I don't know why. Right, so we've got some orange wool. So there we go. There is the orange wool, and if you haven't cleared out everything, if you just, I don't know, fought your way to the top somehow, you can just tunnel out the side. The problem with doing that is that sometimes there's quite a lot of mobs that kind of collect underneath, but yeah. So this is the view from, I'll increase the render distance a little bit. So I think it looks quite cool. The other thing I might do is put some glowstone in the sky, but I don't know, I quite like the sort of airport hangar or aircraft hangar feel, even if gameplay wise it's not the best thing. Right, so yeah, we've successfully gathered the orange wool. I really like these islands as well. Just the deliberate brushstrokes. I think there's so much effort put into a lot of maps to make everything not look deliberate, or kind of obvious brushstrokes, and that's understandable. It kind of breaks the immersion a lot when you look at it and you think that is just a sphere. But on something like this, I think when you use it correctly, it can be a really interesting thing because it's quite alien, because you don't see it often. I can't remember what I put in this chest. I think it might be some lapis or something. Oh no, that is a very good chest. So well worth us coming here and getting that. I'm going to wait till the hunger effect wears off. And yeah, you can see the issues of accumulating drowns that can happen pretty easily on this area. So yeah, right, let's head out of the area. We shouldn't have too many issues getting back to the monument, or getting back to the intersection, sorry, with the wool, but I will keep recording, and I'll just kind of, in fact, actually, what I'm going to do is just hop into spectator mode and just kind of fly over the area for a little bit and talk about it a tiny bit more. Let's put the night vision on as well. Effect, give, @p, night vision. So yeah, this is, you sort of get an impression of how it's meant to look better when it's properly lit up like this. And I think that's, I don't know, I really like that. That will probably this angle will probably end up being the thumbnail. But so I think it's what did I do? I didn't give myself very long, did I? Yeah, so you know, it's kind of, there are some issues. The repetitive houses, not fun. The very flat nature, not that fun. Oh, this is something that we didn't pick up. There is an orange shulker box here with a Smite 1 book, so nothing particularly interesting apart from the shulker box itself. And I believe there is a charged creeper spawner here. Yeah, so this can get pretty ropey if you let it. I think this does add a bit of interest to the area, because otherwise it would be very flat. But all in all, yeah, some good things, some bad things. It's going to be true of almost any area you make, but I think as long as you learn from it the next time, that's probably the most important thing. And I'll definitely be reusing the blue concrete with the white splodges. I think that's a really cool look. Right, let's not cheat. Let's drop back in over here into survival. Let's get rid of the effect first, I guess. Effect clear, and game mode survival. Yeah, so I should be able to get back to the intersection pretty easily, but I'll keep recording until then. Next is the Tower of Night, I believe. So that is an area where we should get hold of infinite coal, pretty much. That's the kind of one of the main things that you get out of going to that area, if you chose to go there first instead of here. But yeah, we've done quite a good job of clearing out this, and we still haven't died, so that is good news. Was there anything else in this chest? I guess I'll take the cookies, why not, and the lanterns, just for base decoration, I suppose. Right. Yeah, we did quite a good job of clearing this out of mobs. What do I want to get rid of? Probably the cookies, to be honest. And yeah, we've made it out without too much trouble. There is more that way, but I'm gonna not explore that on camera. There isn't. It's not groundbreaking. Most of it's just to offer you a different route to come into this if you find a different way out of the starting area, basically. But again, kind of adds a bit of depth and hopefully adds some replay value for people who haven't played the map yet and choose to after watching this series. But I think as for this episode, that's probably all I've got time for today. I will hopefully get to episode 3. In episode 3 we should be able to get the light blue wool and finish off the Tower of Night. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.